My girlfriend said, "I'll be at Jake's tonight. Don't wait up." I said, "Have fun." Then I packed all her stuff and dropped it at his door. When she called at midnight from his lobby, you won't believe what happened. I, 32 male, still struggle to understand how someone can pretend to love you while lining up their next option behind your back. I had been with my girlfriend, who was 29, for 2 years, and she had moved into my apartment about 8 months ago. That detail became important later because I had been renting this place for more than 4 years before she ever showed up. The lease was entirely in my name, and the monthly rent of $2,100 came out of my pocket only. She contributed $400 toward groceries and utilities and called it saving for her business, even though I later learned that there was never any business at all. Everything started feeling strange about 6 weeks earlier when she suddenly became glued to her phone like it was a part of her body. She began going out more often, spending extra time with work friends, and becoming emotionally distant in ways I couldn't fully explain. I was never the jealous type, so I told myself maybe she just needed space. Maybe work was stressful. Maybe she was figuring something out. Then one Thursday evening while I was making dinner, I received a text from her saying she was staying at a friend's place tonight and told me not to wait up. At first it seemed normal enough, so I asked which friend. She mentioned a coworker and said they were working on a project. I believed her, saved her some leftovers, and went to bed alone. The next morning she still wasn't home, and when I texted her, she read my message but took hours to reply. She eventually claimed the project was intense and that she might stay another night. It felt weird, but I played it cool and gave her the benefit of the doubt. But Friday evening everything changed. She sent me a message saying, "I'll be at his place tonight. Don't wait up." She didn't try to hide it behind a friend or a coworker. She straight up named some guy and told me not to wait up while she would be sleeping at another man's apartment. I stared at the message, and the audacity took my breath away. I replied casually, "Have fun." And then I got to work because her entire presence in my apartment felt like a fake layer she had built over my real life. She had treated my apartment like her personal storage unit. Her clothes took up 75% of the closet. Her shoes were scattered everywhere. The bathroom counter was crowded with makeup, hair products, and skincare she used daily. Her yoga mat lived in the living room. Her books filled my shelves, and decorative pillows I hated covered my couch because I kept telling myself relationship compromise was important. That night, the word compromise took on a whole new meaning. I went to the dollar store, bought a stack of trash bags, and spent hours packing up every single item she owned. I worked slowly, methodically, and without hesitation. If it belonged to her, it went into a bag: clothes, toiletries, that juicer she used one time, her laptop charger, and even the hair straightener that always smelled like burnt ends. I found the guy's address on her iPad, which she carelessly left on the coffee table. A quick search showed me his social media, a classic gym bro constantly posting shirtless photos. Clearly, she had a type. I made 3 trips to his apartment building and stacked everything neatly at his door. On the back of a receipt I wrote, "She's all yours. Enjoy the hair products," and signed it her ex. Before leaving, I snapped a photo for my own records. When I drove back home, I felt strangely light, as if I had removed emotional weight I didn't know I was carrying. I immediately called a 24-hour locksmith, and by midnight the locks were changed. It cost me $180, and it felt like the best money I had spent in years. Around 1 in the morning, my phone started ringing. She called 13 times before I turned on Do Not Disturb and went to sleep peacefully, knowing I had finally drawn a boundary she couldn't cross. Saturday morning, I woke up to multiple missed calls and messages. She was furious and confused, claiming she didn't understand why her belongings were at his apartment and demanding I let her inside. I sent her one message only: "You said you were staying at his place. I helped you move in. You're welcome." After that, I watched everything unfold like a movie in my doorbell camera. She showed up at my door, tried her key, realized it didn't work, and then started pounding. I spoke through the camera, told her to stay where she said she'd be, and listened as she went from angry to tearful to manipulative, highlighting every emotion except accountability. Her tears turned into accusations, then begging, then claims of just hanging out. But I had already heard enough. She told me herself that she'd be at another man's home, and I simply took her words literally. When she finally left, she continued texting me nonstop, accusing me of being petty, claiming she needed clothes for work, and even complaining that the guy she chose over me didn't want her there anymore. That message made everything clear. She had made a choice, and now she was facing the consequences she thought she'd escape. By Sunday morning, her mother called me with aggressive accusations, emotional manipulation, and preaching about young people making mistakes. But I reminded her exactly what her daughter had done and why her belongings were at another man's door. After that conversation ended with a harsh click, things only grew more chaotic. And then, just when I thought the chaos had finally quieted down, life threw one more twist into the middle of this already wild story. About 3 weeks after I cut off that last mutual friend, I was walking out of my new apartment building holding a grocery bag in one hand and my keys in the other, when I saw a familiar figure standing near the sidewalk, half hidden behind a streetlight, as if she was debating whether to come forward or run away. I froze for a moment before realizing it was her, the woman who had turned my life into a circus for months, standing there with her shoulders curled inward, her hair messy, and dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept in days. For a split second, my brain tried to decide whether this was another manipulation tactic or a desperate attempt at closure. But the exhaustion on her face made it clear that whatever this was, it wasn't staged. She finally walked toward me slowly, like she expected me to explode or turn around and leave instantly. When she stood a few feet away, she lifted her head just enough to meet my eyes and whispered my name, her voice cracking like it hurt just to say it. I didn't respond, didn't move, didn't react. I simply waited because I knew anything I said could be twisted into another chapter of drama later. She took a shaky breath and said she just wanted to apologize, that she realized everything was her fault, that she didn't deserve forgiveness but needed to say it out loud. She talked about how her life fell apart, how Jim Bro kicked her out, how her parents were fed up, and how she was sleeping in a guest room surrounded by boxes of her own poor decisions. She said she didn't want money, didn't want to come inside, didn't want me back. She just wanted to say she was sorry for hurting me and ruining everything. And standing there on that sidewalk, listening to a woman who had put me through months of manipulation, accusations, police reports, lies, harassment, and emotional abuse, I realized something that hit me hard and clear. I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no bitterness, no pain. Just nothing. It was like my emotions had packed themselves up and moved out long before I did. So I told her calmly, without cruelty or warmth, that I appreciated her apology, but that I was no longer someone she had access to. I said that some damage simply couldn't be repaired, some trust couldn't be rebuilt, some bridges couldn't be walked across again once they'd burned down completely. She nodded with tears streaming down her face, wiped them with her sleeve, and whispered that she understood. For the first time in months, she didn't argue, didn't beg, didn't accuse, didn't manipulate. She just accepted it. She turned around and walked away slowly, not looking back once, and I watched until she disappeared down the block. After she left, I went inside my building, closed my apartment door, and felt this strange, deep sense of peace settle over me like a weight finally lifting off my chest. For the first time since the entire nightmare started, since that first text where she told me she'd be at another man's place and not to wait up, my life felt quiet again. My phone was silent. My doorbell camera was still. No more calls from cops. No more screaming from her mother. No more messages from Jim Brothers trying to lecture me about being a real man. No more mutual friends taking sides. No more long letters filled with manipulation. It was just me, standing in my own apartment, breathing easily for the first time in a very long time. And I realized that moving out, changing my locks, cutting contact, and leaving that entire chaos behind had been the best decision I had ever made. She was finally gone from my life, not because I forced her out, but because she had finally accepted that I meant it when I said I was done.